got Michael Dolce here. Michael's one of Australia's current leading guitarists who's touring the Delta at the moment. Is that how long's this tour?
The tour has been going on for the past 3 weeks. And we've been doing a lot of promos, as you can see today. So we've been slotting in the promo stuff.
Okay.
Sort of while we're on the road, it sort of works out for everyone, basically. So if she gets a spare spot, she'll come out and play for people.
So she's released a new album, is that right?
Yeah, Child of the Universe, which is out now, which is the Great Guns. And yeah, so that's basically this tour that we're actually doing at the moment. It's more of an album launch, glorified album launch. But we're actually doing like an arenas tour come next year. And so yeah, that's going to be a big scale thing.
Beautiful.
So I'm looking forward to that.
That'll be exciting. Yeah, it'll be good for you.
Yeah, totally. Looking forward to that.
So I just want to ask you, because this is for guitar. Mostly we have a lot of guitar students.
Right.
So just a couple of good questions. When did you start? How old were you when you started?
Okay, I was young age actually. I pretty much started sort of picking up and sort of, you know, leaning towards the guitar around the age of 5, I reckon. So Dad was, you know, always sort of playing Italian folk songs and country. He used to love sort of playing that. So I just watched him and I just fell in love with it, you know. So you know, one year I asked for a guitar for Santa Claus and the next thing you know.
There seems to be a lot of Italian kind of heritage guitarists, you know, Steve Vai, Petrucci, Satriani. So
there you go.
There must be a lot of music in the culture, I guess.
I think, yeah, I don't know, like, the thing is, I suppose, you know, with any nationality, you know, everyone's passionate about their music. You know, I find with Italians, I mean, every time we have a family gathering, you know, the guitar is, you know, that's how I grew up. My dad, go and get the guitar, I'd start taking over, he's playing, he'd start singing, and, you know, the accordion would come out, and that's how, you know, and it's just that passion of just having a good time with it, and that's how I grew up, sort of appreciating the music, you know, before I started appreciating the guitar more, you know, it was like appreciating
that's it, I know exactly what you mean. So I understand because my family is the same.
Fantastic.
So quick question, what inspired you outside of your family, like music, what bands and so forth?
Growing up too, I mean, you know, the first thing I sort of stumbled across in Guitarland music was the Shadows. So I pretty much just, at a young age, I fell in love with the Shadows, you know, and stuff from the Beach Boys, and, you know, listening to Elvis, and then, because Dad was listening to a lot of country albums, stuff like Willie Nelson, Johnny Cash, and, you know, all that stuff, Dolly Parton. That's what I grew up listening to, and that was a massive influence on me. So, but yeah, the biggest thing would have to be the Shadows, because it was all about the guitar, and it was just, I loved it.
Yeah, because it was pure guitar.
It was pure guitar, you know, and at the time
was it Apache? Was that it?
Apache, and, you know, FBI, and all those great tunes, you know. I've still got the book somewhere too, you know. I remember going and Mum bringing me the lessons, and, you know, you know, the style of teaching that my guitar teacher at the time was sort of introducing me to was, you know, obviously reading, which is a great thing, you know, especially if you're young kids and stuff like that. It gives them a focus on you know, on a certain, on the reading thing, you know. But you know, now, I mean, these days, you know, and you know, it's good to introduce, you know, all sorts of styles of music and approaching the guitar, you know, with the chords here and there, just to keep them interested. But that's how I learnt it, and because I was playing like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star and stuff like that, that's why the Shadows sort of grabbed onto the Shadows, because it was a more elaborate thing to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So I thought, this is even better.
That's cool,
it was cool. So that was it. So I'd lock myself in the room, and that sort of introduced me to, you know, teaching my ear to listen to notes and picking things off records, and you know, because back in those days there was no YouTube and tab, and you had to grab your little tape deck or your vinyl and put weights on it to slow it down, and you know, the whole thing.
I remember it well.
So you know, your power track and that sort of things now. So you know, it was great. I enjoyed it. You know, it was a great learning curve. You know, so I look back and think, you know,
I know what you mean. It's a kind of a different experience in those days.
It is, when it was, you know, because, you know, these days the kids are exposed to YouTube, which is great, you know.
It's great research.
It's a great research thing, but you can't be, you know, sort of sitting sitting in your room and, you know, or going to lessons and your teacher inspiring you, you know, to sort of, you know, I think that's the key, you know, the key is that, you know, if you go to lessons, you know, it's great if your teacher is inspiring you, you know, because I still remember the feeling of, you know, I was only 6 at the time, you know, and I remember the feeling of my teacher inspiring me. I thought, I want to play like him, you know what I mean? I loved how he was playing his chords. And I'd just watch his fingers, and then I'd go home and I'd just sort of start popping. And before he knew it, I knew all these chords just by looking at him.
Yeah,
you know, so, you know, going to lessons, I think is, you know, was pretty much, you know,
it's a big part.
Paramount, you know, for my curve, my learning curve, you know. And I mean, admittedly, I think I sort of took, it would have been like a good year or even a couple of years of early childhood lessons, and that taught me how to sort of read, you know.
Yeah.
That's where it stopped for me. Then I sort of. I went, you know.
But you got that grounding, which was...
The grounding was great, and it introduced me to, you know, this is what I need to do, you know, like, and this is great, this is what the guitar player's supposed to sound like. So, you know, yeah, my teacher, you know, Mr. Kelly, he's probably passed away now, God bless his soul, but I was trying to look him up, actually, about a couple of months back, trying to look up all teachers in Perthsmith, actually. Couldn't find him, you know, so one day, if anyone's listening, knows me, Mr. Kelly, he used to teach in Hurstville many moons ago. Probably say, probably about 30 years ago.
He's out there, he might be out there somewhere still.
Yeah, he's still out there,
Yeah, well, it surprises me some of these guitar teachers who, you know, they're still around.
Yeah.
I discovered my teacher after, you know, 25 years.
That's right, I'd love to see him again, you know.
Yeah, because you think about that kind of part of your life, that they've still put you on a trajectory.
Yeah, there's a massive influence there. And it definitely rubbed off on me, you know. I'm very grateful. So,
okay. But look, I know you're busy, so I'll ask you one more question. How did it come about that you got these kind of gigs on the voice and how did that sort of come about as a career?
Well, the thing was, you know, once again, at early childhood, you know, probably my teens more than much of early childhood, but I just remember the feeling of, you know, I think if I play guitar, I think, you know, all the girls will like me, and I think I'll keep that going, you know. But that started sort of, you know, wearing away when, you know, you start doing cover gigs around town and stuff, and you realise, you know, this is more of a passion than, you know, wanted it, you know, picking up chicks. Or,
That's right.
But that feeling went pretty much straight away. But then, you know, get back to the question, it was just, you know, years of playing the circuit in Sydney, and just not worrying about, you know, I want to do a bigger gig or doing that. It was just, I think it's inevitable if you're in a circle of players, you know, especially in a place like Sydney, you know, where you're constantly playing with different players. You know, that always leads to, you know, a different path or a different road.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. That's exactly what it is. You know, my thoughts towards playing covers, some guys I sort of credit, but you know, there's a lot of young guys out there that, you know, want to get into this field of playing, you know, and it's not impossible. It's just something, if you have the passion for it, you know, it's not rocket science. I think if you put in the hard work and, you know, and you focus, you just go out there, do the gigs, you know, with a great attitude, and, you know, and just work on your sounds, you know, just treat each gig like it's going to be your best performance, you know, and just go out there, and that's my opinion, you know, just do what,
one gig at a time.
One gig at a time, and, you know, it's inevitable. It just happens, and for me, that's how it worked, you know, it was just, I met him, and he, you know, years later, you know, he became a producer, or he became a musical director, and, you know, he got called for that, and, you know, that led to that. And it just keeps growing, it just keeps growing and growing. You know, hence the voice, you know, was the same thing, you know, it was just, you know, from the music director, Scotty Applin, who's, who I've toured with, you know,
who knows everybody.
He's played, you know, Silverchair, you know, Noiseworks. He still does all those gigs, and he's done a lot of stuff. But I've done a lot of touring with him, and it was that experience of him, you know, having that relationship with me within that gig and seeing what I can do, and, you know. And
so it's the playing, of course. The playing is like your ticket in.
That's exactly it.
But if you can play well, then it's. Personalities.
Exactly, and it's just, you know, that's the key thing, you know. There are sort of little criteria that you sort of have to meet, which you don't realise, you know, because I think if people sort of be themselves and sort of not try and sort of work too hard for it or try and sort of go out and grab it with two hands too hard, I think it'll come naturally. So, you know, just let your plane do the talking, not your mouth, sort of just be humble about it.
Don't push too hard.
Don't push too hard. It'll happen. It'll happen. It's just the way it is.
Well, fantastic. That's great. Thanks, Michael.
No worries.
I know you're going to go on. Michael's about to go on live with Delta very shortly. So we're going to hang back and
awesome.
enjoy the show.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Appreciate it.